Susie, the belle of her school, possessed not only stunning beauty, but also a heart overflowing with kindness. Her willingness to lend a hand to those in need made her the darling of the school, adored by everyone. Well, everyone except Vanessa and her clique, who harbored a spiteful jealousy towards Susie and seized every opportunity to torment her. Despite their attempts to be unkind, Susie remained unfazed, choosing to turn a blind eye to their actions. Susie had two best friends, David and Maddie, whom she loved very much. One day, as she swung open her locker door, she was surprised to find a single rose accompanied by an enigmatic note, emanating an unusual fragrance. The message read, "Even if I can't be with you, I will always watch over you and protect you." While Susie had received numerous love letters and confessions from admirers of all genders, she couldn't shake off the peculiar feeling this note evoked. Nevertheless, she chose to dismiss it, attributing it to yet another anonymous admirer. The following day, during the homework submission in class, Susie embarked on a frantic search. She rummaged through her bag and scanned her desk, but her assignment seemed to have vanished into thin air. Susie was utterly certain she had placed it in her bag that morning. To ensure she hadn't accidentally lent it to David or Maddie, she even inquired with them, but they both denied having it. As a result of not submitting her homework, she faced public reprimand in front of the entire class. While her classmates remained mostly sympathetic, it was only Vanessa and her clique who took this opportunity to mock her. Susie couldn't ignore the malicious satisfaction in Vanessa's eyes, and deep down, she suspected it was Vanessa who had orchestrated this. However, Susie chose to maintain her composure, refusing to give Vanessa the satisfaction of a reaction. After school, Susie visited her locker and was surprised to find yet another rose and a note with that distinct scent. This time, the note read, "I told you I would protect you." Susie couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She decided to confide in her friends, David and Maddie, about the peculiar occurrences. They tried to reassure her, suggesting that it might just be someone's idea of a prank, and urged her to dismiss it. The next day, an unsettling atmosphere hung over the class, as the headmaster entered Susie's classroom with somber news. He announced that Vanessa hadn't returned home the previous day and had been reported as missing. Vanessa's friends were brought in for questioning, and they claimed they hadn't seen or spoken to her since they parted ways after school. Susie's mind involuntarily drifted back to those strange notes, and she felt a chill run down her spine. However, she quickly brushed off the idea, telling herself that she was overthinking things, even though an uneasy feeling lingered. A few days passed, and there was still no sign of Vanessa. Susie was walking to her friend's table in the cafeteria when a quiet boy named Noah accidentally tripped her. She fell face first, her food spilling all over her and drawing the attention of everyone around. Noah rushed to her side, apologizing profusely. Susie, known for her kindness, simply smiled and assured him it was okay, explaining that she understood it was an accident. She then excused herself to go to the bathroom and clean up. After cleaning up in the bathroom, Susie went to her locker to retrieve some spare clothes. To her shock, she found the same rose with the peculiar scented note, bearing the chilling message, "I told you I will protect you." Fear washed over her, and she couldn't help but connect it to Noah's accidental trip. She hurriedly shared this discovery with David and Maddie, her concern evident. However, they dismissed her worries, assuring her that they were just high school students and no one would do something like this. Still, Susie's anxiety lingered, and the mysterious notes weighed heavily on her mind. Susie's heart sank when she entered the classroom the next day and noticed that Noah wasn't in his seat. Her anxiety grew as she realized he hadn't come to school. As the class began, the headmaster entered, and Susie's fear intensified. Her worst fears were confirmed as the headmaster announced that Noah hadn't returned home the previous day and had been reported missing. Sent shivers down her spine, connecting the eerie notes to these unsettling disappearances. Susie couldn't shake the feeling that somehow she was at the center of this mystery. During break, Susie assembled Maddie and David and told them they had to find the person who's been sending the note. Maddie and David tried to convince her it was nothing to worry about, but she insisted, and they reluctantly agreed. Immediately after school, they hid to see when the person would appear and put the note or flower in her locker. They waited till the school was empty, but no one showed up and they left. They did this for 3 days straight, but they never saw the person, and Susie kept seeing the rose flower in her locker. She was able to identify it was from the same person because of the peculiar scent. Susie realized hiding and waiting wouldn't lead to any answers. So she and her friends decided to compile a list of potential suspects and question them. Their first person of interest was Ricky, a senior who had persistently pursued Susie despite her countless rejections, only to suddenly stop. They confronted Ricky to see if he was behind the mysterious flowers and notes. As Susie bravely asked him if he was the one responsible, Ricky responded by rolling his eyes and callously admitting that he had pursued her just because she was considered the prettiest girl in school. He confessed that he only wanted to date the so-called prettiest girl, even though he didn't genuinely like her. He chuckled dismissively and told Susie to get lost. Although Ricky's words stung, Susie remained determined to uncover the identity of the person behind the notes and roses. After school, Susie opened her locker and was greeted once again by the rose and the note with the recurring message, "I told you I will protect you." Alarmed and concerned for Ricky's safety, Susie decided to secretly shadow him with David and Maddie by her side, in the hopes of catching the mysterious admirer if they approached him. They discreetly trailed Ricky until he entered his house. But nothing out of the ordinary occurred. Maddie and David turned to Susie, trying to reassure her that she might be overthinking the situation. They believed that the disappearances of the other students were likely unrelated to her and the notes. However, Susie remained convinced that there was a connection because every time she received the note, someone who had wronged her in some way disappeared without a trace. 2 days later, Susie received the distressing news at school that Ricky had been reported missing. He had gone out one night to buy snacks and never returned. This unsettling development left Susie feeling even more anxious and desperate to uncover the identity of the person behind the locker notes. Determined to solve this mystery on her own, she decided not to involve her two best friends, David and Maddie. Susie took matters into her own hands by placing a micro camera inside her locker. This way, she could monitor her locker remotely using her phone and receive notifications whenever someone approached it. To further distance herself from potential risks, she began avoiding interaction with everyone at school as much as possible. Susie was now committed to getting to the bottom of this perplexing situation. At home, as Susie prepared to sleep, she couldn't resist the urge to monitor her locker one last time for the day. She watched intently as the footage revealed a figure dressed entirely in black, wearing a mask, and holding a rose flower as they opened her locker. Susie strained to identify the person by their stature and height, but the mysterious visitor's identity remained shrouded in secrecy. As the days passed, Susie continued her vigilance, hoping for the date when the person would visit her locker without the concealing mask. While nobody else had gone missing since she began avoiding people at school, Susie remained resolute in her determination to uncover the truth behind the locker notes, because Vanessa, Noah, Ricky, and a few others hadn't been found still. One day, the three best friends met at David's house to do an assignment. During the assignment, they needed a correction fluid, but had none. That's when David had an idea. He remembered seeing one in his brother Jacob's room. He suggested Susie go retrieve it, since she was friends with Jacob and knew her way around his room, while he volunteered to fetch some snacks. When Susie entered Jacob's room, she realized he wasn't there. She decided to search for the correction pen fluid on her own. She figured it might be in his drawer, so she opened it to check. However, what she found inside left her in shock. Inside the drawer, Susie discovered a collection of notes, similar to the ones they had received from the mysterious admirer, as well as a bottle of perfume with the same peculiar scent that had been on the notes and rose flowers. Her heart raced as her eyes darted around the room, seeking further confirmation of her suspicions. And there, tucked away in a box beneath Jacob's bed, she found the pieces that would complete the unsettling puzzle, the black clothes and the mask. Susie stood in the room, frozen, with shock as she tried to process everything. Jacob had indeed expressed his feelings for her before all. The mysterious occurrences had begun, but she had gently turned him down. She had turned him down, not because she didn't have feelings for him, but out of concern that pursuing a romantic relationship might endanger her deep friendship with David. Furthermore, the three best friends had made a pact to avoid dating each other's siblings or anyone closely related. As she stared at the incriminating evidence before her, Susie wrestled with her emotions. She wanted to confide in David, her closest friend, but she feared he wouldn't believe her due to the strong bond between the two brothers. In the end, she decided to keep her discovery to herself for now and focus on finding concrete proof of Jacob's involvement. With a heavy heart, she resolved to install a hidden camera in his room. She understood the gravity of invading someone's privacy, but her desperation to uncover the truth and protect her friends left her with few options. Upon returning home and reviewing the feed from the hidden camera placed in Jacob's room, Susie was taken aback when she observed David enter the room. He gingerly opened the drawer, revealing the same bottle of perfume she had noticed earlier, and inhaled its scent with an unsettling, sinister grin. David then proceeded to retrieve the box containing black attire from beneath the bed, carefully placing all the mysterious notes and the perfume inside. These unnerving actions left Susie deeply unsettled, reluctant to dwell on the implications of what she had witnessed. Susie opted to confront Jacob privately the following day at a cozy cafe. She broached the subject with care, asking him if he had any knowledge of the mysterious flowers and cryptic notes that had been appearing in her locker. Jacob, his expression a canvas of confusion, inquired about the specifics of her claims. Susie proceeded to recount the unsettling incidents at school and her disconcerting discovery in his room. Jacob responded with a vehement denial, affirming that he attended a different school and remained oblivious to the occurrences she described. He conveyed his continued fondness for her, but emphasized that he respected her decision not to pursue a romantic relationship. Susie confided in Jacob about the hidden camera she had placed in his room and the disturbing footage she had witnessed, which had raised suspicions about David. She offered a sincere apology for invading his privacy in such a manner. Jacob, understanding her desperation to unravel this enigma, reassured her that he held no grudge for her actions. He disclosed that he had noticed David's increasingly peculiar behavior as well, but hadn't given it much thought. In light of the imminent school day, Susie expressed her concern that David might make a move that very night, given the pattern of the daily rose delivery. She beseeched Jacob to assist her in monitoring David, and to promptly notify her should he leave the house wearing the black attire. At the stroke of midnight, Jacob's call jolted Susie into action. He reported that David had clandestinely slipped out of the house, garbed in black. Susie rushed to meet Jacob, and together they covertly trailed David, their hearts heavy with anticipation and dread. All the while, Susie clung to a glimmer of hope, yearning for a different outcome, praying it was all a misunderstanding. Alas, hope faded as they reached the school standing, just a breath away from Susie's locker. There, in that moment, Jacob seized David from behind, forcibly unveiling his masked visage. To their profound dismay, it was indeed David who stood revealed as the elusive and unsettling admirer. Susie couldn't hold back her tears as she confronted David, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. She demanded an explanation for the disturbing events that had unfolded. In a voice filled with remorse, David finally opened up. He confessed that he had been in love with Susie from the moment they met, but he never told her because he knew she never liked him back, just by the way she looks at him. He also knew Susie liked Jacob, that was why he put those things in Jacob's room and invited her to his house for the assignment. After seeing the camera on the locker so that Susie would suspect him, he said he was okay with staying by her side as a friend, and all that he did was for her because he can't stand seeing her hurt in any way. Susie then asked him where Noah and the rest were. Initially hesitant, David finally revealed the grim truth. He had confined them in his secret basement. With David as their reluctant guide, Susie and Jacob hastened to the dreadful location. The sight that met them was heart-wrenching. The missing students were in a dire state, and the stench that enveloped the place was unbearable. In a panic, Jacob dialed for an ambulance, urgently summoning medical help for the suffering students. The hospital was alerted, and the parents were informed. Jacob, in a state of profound shock and disbelief, found himself unable to utter a single word to his brother, grappling with the unfathomable depths of his actions. Moments later, the victims bravely identified David as the perpetrator, leading to his arrest. It was a somber day for Susie and Jacob as they watched their once close friend being taken into custody. Their hearts were heavy, but the hands of justice could not be swayed. In the following days, David was released from jail because of his status as a minor, but not without consequences. David was required to undergo psychological treatment to address the underlying issues that had led him down such a dark path. Jacob and Susie's relationship deepened, and they began dating. At school, Susie decided to confront her feelings of guilt and reached out to all the victims, offering heartfelt apologies. Even Vanessa, once a tormentor, became one of Susie's closest friends. Though Susie and David's friendship had fractured, she couldn't entirely let go. She checked in on him from time to time. She held on to the hope that he would find his way to a better, happier place in life.